Hello, I'm Anthony. Welcome back to the Acoustic Agent Expert Series. Today we're going to have a look at a new kit, the Simon Phillips Studio Drums, and we're going to use that kit as basically an opportunity to stretch Groove Agent in a few different ways, because it's got some stuff in that expansion that you won't find in some of the other kits. Just before we set off, if I can point you at the Patreon link in the description below, or the join button to become a YouTube channel member. They're both great ways to help support my channel. This is what I do full-time these days. Okay, so I've loaded this preset 48 hours mix 1, and it sounds like this. So a feature of a lot of the Simon Phillips expansions and styles is that they tend to be quite complex, that you have syncopated rhythms, odd time signatures, and big kits, lots and lots of pieces. You can see that we've got octobands and the gong drum over here and all sorts of, it's basically just a much bigger version of the original kits. You can also see that we've got two kick drums, which I understand why kick A is on the right hand side because that's the central drum, but holy moly, it troubles me for kick B to be on the left hand side. Anyway, OCD out of the way. A couple of things, I've got the kick drum selected here. You can see two things immediately jump out at us. We've got a trigger tab and we've also got a resonance knob. Let's have a look at the trigger tab first. So this is basically a curated set of samples. And we can select any of these and it's basically going to overlay this sound, this sample sound on top of the kick drum. Now bear in mind this is a DI sample. In other words, it's going straight into the desk. I'll show you the mixer shortly. But one of the consequences of this is that it has an unusual relationship with the pads on the instrument and the way we solo and mute stuff. Let me demonstrate. If I get distortion 9. So here's one of the weird side effects of the way that the triggers work. If I solo the pad, you don't hear the trigger. So this pad is tied to the kit piece, but not the trigger. Furthermore, if we go into the mixer and we have a look over at the kicks tab, you can see kick A and trigger A have their own channel strips. But if I solo the room mic, you only hear the original kick drum through the room mic. Obviously it's quiet. Oops. But you're not hearing the trigger at all. So the room microphones, none of the room microphones pick up these triggers. That's what I mean by DI, direct into the desk. They're not a part of the room, and so none of the microphones in the room are hearing the sound. So they're a little bit weird to kind of navigate your way around. If you want to hear the trigger while the room microphone is soloed, you'd have to unmute the trigger strip itself. The problem with that is that that's then going to become the dominant sound, because that's like a principal mix volume as opposed to the room mic, which might be down here. And so you're massively hearing the trigger sound over the top of everything else that the room mic would be picking up. I'm sorry if you can hear construction noises outside, by the way. Somebody's building a new house and it's just taking absolutely forever. It's driving me insane. Okay, let's have a look at the next feature, the resonance knob. So this is a third different type of microphone. It's a little bit difficult to hear because by default it's very low in the mix. You find it over on the resonance/mix tab, and here you can see the resonance is dialed way down. If I solo it and just get this pattern playing, you can basically hardly hear it. But what we've got is all of the kit pieces that have skins, basically kick drums, snares, toms, anything that's capable of resonating has a resonance mic. And it's basically the interplay, the physical, natural interplay between all of the various kit pieces has its own dialing tone. And as you can hear, it has a very wide, expansive kind of ringing sound. So you do want to be careful about dialing too much of this in, because it's just going to wash the entire sound with this massively kind of reverberated resonance. I'm just going to throw any changes that I've made away to this kit so that we've got basically the original sound again. And I want to have a chat about these two buttons, the room and overhead buttons. So these are basically mix controls for the microphones themselves, and you can see that we're split into separate groups. So we've got kick, snare, toms and octobands. And you can actually control the tone, you can control the tuning and the dynamics of each of those different kit pieces as far as the room and overhead microphones are concerned. And there's a couple of interesting effects that we can get from this. One of them is to slightly detune the room and overhead microphones. What that's basically going to do is kind of fatten out the sound, because the pitch of the natural sound plus the reverberated sound, you're not really going to be able to distinguish them if you don't dial in too much detune, but it will fatten and thicken up the sound. Let's have a listen to that. Hopefully you could hear that effect. It's quite clear to me that it basically, as I say, it adds an extra dimension to the sound. It makes it a little bit kind of heftier. The other cool thing that we can do with these controls is to accentuate the gate effect. What I'm going to do this time, I'll get the pattern running again, and then I'll pull the decay down on the room and overhead microphones, so that basically the reverb is quite snappy, but I'm leaving the natural sound of the drum kit pieces alone. Saw me just turn the resonance down then. Because the resonance is this big washy reverb effect, it's kind of fighting against what I'm trying to do here, so I've just taken it out of the way a little bit. Can you hear that sounds really sharpened up by tightening the reverb up? Now let's make it washier. Now you can really hear that reverb breathing, as basically it's all allowed to extend further. Throw all that stuff away. Let's have a look at the snare. We've got 4 different types of snare on this kit. We can access them from the types. 3 of them are just basically size differences. But the 4th one, this is without snares. So on the bottom of a snare drum, you've got basically like a snare chain that vibrates against the drum. We take this away, it basically makes it sound more like a tom. And we've also got triggers on the snares. We've also got triggers on the snares. Let's have a listen to one of them. Again, just bear in mind, if you're going to mess around with the triggers, it's going to cause you difficulties when you come to mixing. You just have to be aware of this DI nature of the trigger. Also, just as we did with the microphones earlier, you can detune the trigger a little bit. For interesting effect. That's quite nice. One final thing I wanted to show you is that there's a close relationship, as far as my ears are concerned, between the 2 different Simon Phillips expansions. The studio drums is the one that we've been looking at today, but there's also a jazz drums expansion, and the styles from the jazz drums I think work really well with the studio kit. So I've just selected one of the styles from the jazz drums kit, drag this onto a pattern pad. Okay, let's have a listen to this. So this is the jazz drums style, this Montuno preset being played on the studio drum kit. It just sounds really nice. If I head into load kit, not load kit with patterns, and load the jazz drum kit over the top, I'm now loading the drum kit that's appropriate to that style. Let's get that going again. And I actually prefer, in this particular case, I prefer the studio sound. So let's get back again. While I was preparing for this video, I was just having to play with some of the fills. I got this fill running, which I thought was all very well and good, but that ringing snare is a bit much. So if we head into the instrument, and I take the snares off, we get a really cool effect between them. So it's just a small example of the really nice interplay between the two different Simon Phillips expansions. If you have the opportunity to pick them up, they do work really well together. That'll do us for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. I'll see you next time.